Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look on what is happening in India and in the world. Thousands of Americans carrying placards reading Black Lives Matter and raising slogans such as No Justice, No Peace took to the streets in many US cities, demonstrating peacefully against the killing of unarmed African American George Floyd by a white police officer in Minneapolis on May 25. The 46-year-old victim, a native of Houston, was handcuffed and pinned to the ground on May 25 by a white police officer who kneeled on his neck as he gasped for breath. Floyd's death has triggered nationwide violent protests, with a section of protesters resorting to looting and rioting across the country, leaving behind a trail of destructions. Mourners gathered in huge numbers across the country on Thursday night to remember Floyd after a private memorial service in Minneapolis. Seeking justice for Floyd, they are demanding urgent reforms in the public and criminal justice system. Several cities, including New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Los Angeles, have reported large-scale violence and looting in the last few days. More than 10,000 Americans have been arrested across the country for violent protests. Protesters chant slogans as they march, with music and drum beats blaring in the background in Los Angeles. Cars were seen moving slowly along with the marchers, with many drivers and passengers holding protest signs or raising fists out of their windows to show support. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi described this as a day of great sadness. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison on Thursday announced to elevate charges against the former Minneapolis police officer who killed Floyd, while adding the charges on aiding and abetting murder against the three police officers at the scene. As the memorial service for George Floyd take place in Minneapolis, I once again extend my heartfelt condolences to his family and friends. It is my hope our country will come together in peace and heal from these challenging times, First Lady Melania Trump said. Congressional Democrats on Thursday said that they plan to release a proposal on police accountability. While the vast majority of police officers do their job bravely and righteously, it is undeniable that many African Americans lack confidence in the American criminal justice system. That must change, Attorney General William Barr told reporters. The Constitution mandates equal protection and nothing less is acceptable. FBI Director Christopher Wray said that this is an incredibly challenging time for the country and for all the citizens they serve. Trump has been very critical of the post and he described it as fake news. Security around the White House has been stepped up in the last few days, mainly because of the violent protest in Washington, D.C. The Congress on Friday dubbed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Vocal for Local call and the economic stimulus package to make the country self-reliant as yet another jumla to divert the attention of the people from real issues. Addressing a virtual press conference, senior Congress leader Kapil Sibal asked how can India become self-reliant till it creates innovation and intellectual property in its universities. This is an act of self-deception. This is yet another jumla that you sell to the people of the country. We are only manufacturing jumlas, statements and slogans. That is the only thing we make in India, and we are masters at under this government, he said, taking a swipe at the BJP-led government. Sibal said while the Prime Minister calls for Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, his government has failed to help the poor, the farmers, the migrant workers, the industry or the states to become self-reliant. Similarly, his exhortation to industry to push Made in India, Made for the World, to expand globally, not be independent on another country in the strategic sector, did not have a clear roadmap as to how this goal should be achieved, the former Union Minister said. The rupees 20 lakh crore Atmanirbhar package does not lead to expansion of the government expenditure, as it includes measures already announced by RBI and the budget and amounts to less than 1% of GDP, as against 10% claimed by the government. The reality is that Modi's Atmanirbhar idea is merely a slogan like innumerable to others. He also called for private investment in the universities to create innovation and ideas, which he said did not amount to privatization. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday pitched for the collective efforts to ensure that the planet becomes a better place for future generations. On World Environment Day, we reiterated our pledge to preserve our planet's rich biodiversity. Let us collectively do whatever possible to ensure the flora and fauna with whom we share the earth thrive, he wrote on Twitter. May we have an even better planet for the coming generations. Modi also shared a brief video on his latest Mann Ki Baat program in which he had referred to World Environment Day. The theme this year is biodiversity. It is especially pertinent the current circumstances. During lockdown in the last few weeks, the pace of life may have slowed down a bit, but it has also given us an opportunity to introspect upon the rich diversity of nature or biodiversity around us. Much of the avian fauna had sort of disappeared due to the sound and air pollution, and now after years people can once again listen to their melodic chirping in their homes. We had also pitched for saving rainwater, saying the traditional conservation methods are in the form of very simple remedies, and employing these we can tap the water. He also urged the people to plant trees and make resolutions so that a daily relationship with nature can be forged. The temperature on the rise, so do not forget to facilitate water for birds. The Supreme Court Friday asked private hospitals whether they are ready to provide treatment for COVID-19 infected patients at the charges prescribed under the government Ayushman Bharat scheme. The Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana is aimed at providing health cover to poor and vulnerable persons in the country. A bench headed by Chief Justice S.A. Bobde observed that the apex court is not asking all the private hospitals to treat certain number of COVID-19 patients for free. The bench, also comprising the Justices A.S. Bopanna and Rishikesh Roy, said it is asking only those private hospitals which have been given land at concessional rates by the government to treat certain number of coronavirus infected patients for free. I just want to know if hospitals are ready to charge at Ayushman rates, the CJI observed during the hearing, which was conducted through video conferencing. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, appearing for the centre, told the bench that government is doing its best for the lowest strata of society, and the people who cannot afford treatment are covered under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. The top court, which posted the matter for 2 weeks from now, was hearing a plea which has sought a direction for regulating the cost of treatment of COVID-19 at private hospitals across the country. During the arguments, the bench observed that there is an earlier judgment which said that hospitals which have been given land or concessional rates should treat certain number of patients for free. Senior advocate Harish Salve, appearing for a healthcare federation which has filed intervention application in the matter, said the hospital which have received land on concessional rates are already complying with the requirements. Advocate Sachin Jain, who has filed the petition, told the bench that rates prescribed under the Ayushman Bharat scheme should be made applicable to the hospitals. The Union of India should stand with the citizens and not with corporate hospitals. Meanwhile, the centre has filed an affidavit in the matter and said that there is no provision under the Clinical Establishment Act 2010, whereby it is mandated that the private hospitals running on the public land shall treat COVID-19 patients on free basis. It is again reiterated that such policies may only be defined and implemented by the respective state governments. The care cost in the private sector is not regulated by the central government. The top court had on May 27 asked the center to identify private hospitals where COVID-19 infected patients could get treatment for free or at nominal charges. Equity benchmark Sensex surged over 350 points in early trade on Friday, tracking gains in index heavyweights, Reliance Industries and HDFC Twins amid sustained foreign fund flow. After hitting a high of 34,357, the 30-share index was trading 366 points or 1.08% higher at 34,347. Similarly, NSE Nifty rose 112 points or 1.12% to 10,141. Tata Steel was the top gainer in the Sensex pack, rising around 4%, followed by ONGC, SBI, L&T, IndusInd Bank and Sun Pharma. Shares of Reliance Industries surged around 2% after the company announced the sale of 1.85% stake in its digital unit Jio Platforms to Abu Dhabi-based sovereign investor Mubadala for Rs 9,000 crores. The sixth deal in many weeks will inject a combined Rs 87,600 crores in the oil to telecom conglomerate to help pare its debt. On the other hand, TCS, Bajaj Auto, Infosys and Power Grid were among the laggards. In the previous session, the BSE barometer settled at 128 points or 0.38% lower at 33,980, while the broader Nifty slipped 32.45 points or 0.32% to close at 10,029. On a net basis, foreign portfolio investors bought equities worth Rs 2,900 crores in the capital market on Thursday, provisional exchange data showed. According to traders, while Jio Platforms Mubadala deal boosted domestic benchmarks, persistent foreign fund inflow led by bullish sentiments in the overall market. On the global front, bourses in Shanghai, Hong Kong and Tokyo were in the red, while those in Seoul were trading with gains. Exchanges on Wall Street ended on a negative note in overnight trade. International oil benchmark Brent crude futures rose 0.35% to $14.13 per barrel. It's time for a short break. We'll join you in a short while.
Sabi of Tundi fan with the cooler number one. Eka Chesco mode fun, unte cooler number one. Eka don't run from the sun, unte gangsta number one.
पहली नजर में हो गया मैं दीवाना 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 इतना सुंदर जैसे कोई सपना सुहाना मैं दीवाना दीवाना
खजाना टाइल्स, जो देखे वो दीवाना।
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. The states will get 15 more days to transport migrants home from the cities amid coronavirus lockdown, the Supreme Court said today, adding it will pass an order on the issue of stranded migrants on Tuesday. Today's hearing came days after the Supreme Court took up the issue on its own, and passed several orders to the states to help them reach home. The center requested the top court not to issue new guidelines for quarantine for now, as all efforts needs to be on bringing migrants home first. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, appearing for the center, said the railways has run 4,228 special Shramik trains till June 3 and taken 57 lakh people home. He said 41 lakh others have gone home by road, taking the total migrants who have left the cities to nearly 1 crore. Mr. Mehta said the maximum number of soft trains have gone to Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. We have on record a chart which shows how many workers yet to be shifted and how many trains are required for it. The states have also prepared charts. The three-judge bench of Justices Ashok Bhushan, Sanjay Kishan Kaul and M.R. Shah pointed out that according to the chart, Maharashtra has only asked for one train. What we intended to do is we will give you and the states 15 days to transport all migrants. All states bring on record how they will provide employment and other kinds of relief. There should be registrations of migrants, the Supreme Court said. Advocate Colin Gonsalves, appearing for migrants, said the registration system is not working, leaving thousands of migrant workers unable to register. Two high courts have made observations on the registration system. It needs to be simplified. One by one, several states read out the data they have collected on migrants who have returned home. Gujarat said 20.50 lakh migrants have been sent home from the state. Maharashtra said 11 lakh have left the states, while some 38,000 remain. And Delhi said some 2 lakh migrant workers have stayed back in the national capital. Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray today announced an immediate financial relief of rupees 100 crore for Raigad district, which bore the brunt of cyclonic Nisarg 3 days ago. The Chief Minister made the announcement while on a visit to Alibag Taluka of Raigad districts to take stock of the damage caused by the cyclone, which skirted Mumbai but hammered the popular gateway around 120 kilometers from the financial capital of the country. For an immediate relief for Raigad district, I have announced rupees 100 crore assistance. This does not mean that there is a full stop with 100 crore. We need to make an estimate. We will release whatever is required. I don't want to declare a figure that's exaggerated or less. We will make an accurate estimate and however much is required will be allotted. I will consider the whole issue and I promise you that you will get help. Just like Raigad, I will help the other districts too, said Mr. Thackeray. The Chief Minister left for Alibag, the tropical storm's landfall site, on Wednesday in the new acquired Ropex ferry, which was to begin services between the coastal town and Mumbai this summer. The CM has asked the district officials to provide an aid of rupees 4 lakh each to the families of those dead. Mr. Thackeray also ordered officials to ensure early restoration of the electricity in Raigad district, where the uprooting of electricity poles has disrupted power supply. 6 people were killed in the state due to cyclone-related incidents. Uddhav Thackeray had on Thursday ordered officials to assess the damage caused by the cyclone and file reports on it in 2 days to assure people that speedy help is being provided to the farmers and villagers. Mr. Thackeray will also hold a meeting with senior officials at the district headquarters in Alibag. These several cyclonic storm blew away roofs and uprooted electric poles after it made landfall in the Raigad districts on Wednesday afternoon. Indian military officials will walk into a meeting on Saturday with their Chinese counterparts to attempt to resolve the month-long row over the line of actual control, with the knowledge that it may not be possible to achieve an immediate breakthrough to the Ladakh standoff. People familiar with the development told. Saturday's meeting is the first high-level meeting between Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, the general officer commanding of Leh-based 14 Corps, and his Chinese counterpart, who heads the People Liberation Army's Group Army since the May 5 scuffle between soldiers near Pangong Lake and subsequent standoff at Galwan River route. The last round of talks between delegations led by two major general rank officers of the two armies on June 2 had been inconclusive. Officials, however, underlined that it was a positive sign that both sides were taking to each other over through established military and diplomatic channels. But the dialogue does not mean an immediate resolution. This is the eventuality that we are prepared for, one of them said. India has already made it clear it wants the Chinese troops to move back and restore status quo on the four positions. We are not in a hurry, and I believe neither the Chinese side, a government functionary told, signaling that the government had adopted a realistic approach to the standoff and the dialogue process. An official said given the high stakes involved, he expected the Ladakh standoff to continue for longer than 73 days Doklam standoff. Over the next few days, China amassed two combined arms brigades of the People's Liberation Army at Galwan Valley and Pangong TSO patrolling points along the 3,488 kilometer long line of actual control. This comes to around 8,000 soldiers plus support elements like artillery. Indian officials say the standoff at Pangong TSO appears to be aimed at dominating the Srijap mountains that overlooks the lake. But the game in Galwan Valley, where the Chinese military has parked itself around 3 patrolling points, is a lot more complex. Broadly, our understanding is that the PLA's focus on the Galwan Valley is prompted by multiple objectives that are mostly linked to stalling the upgrade of border infrastructure that has picked up pace in the last 2 years. Congress MLAs are breaking up in the Rajya Sabha elections in Gujarat. The Congress leaders have started preparation to quarantine the remaining Congress MLAs, in which different groups of MLAs can be formed, and the responsibility of quarantining them can be assigned to different leaders of the party. In the Rajya Sabha elections, the political crisis of the Congress is getting darker. Following the resignation of 3 MLAs in the last 24 hours, the Congress High Command has suddenly taken action and decided to form a group to keep the remaining MLAs safe. Preparations have been entrusted to bring these MLAs directly to the polling booths on the day of polling for the Rajya Sabha elections. Since the hotel resort is not open at present, the MLAs have to be taken to a farmhouse. In addition, the decision to form a team of some contiguous Congress leaders to keep the group wise is safer, as there is not enough space to accommodate 64 MLAs at a time. It seems that a group of 6 to 7 MLAs has been formed with about 10 groups, the leadership of which has been handed over to senior leaders. According to Congress sources, Bharat Singh Solanki's lobby has reactivated after the High Command instructed him to give Shakti Singh the highest number of votes to win. The politics of resignation, which started yesterday, has made it difficult for the Congress to win both the seats, but it is certain to lose. The BJP has adopted a strategy of winning all the 3 seats on the strength of its votes. More and more Congress MLAs are resigning. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert. Be positive, be safe.